What's going on, guys? Balkan Architect here, and in today's video we're talking about selection inside of Revit. So you might be thinking, well, selection, that's pretty simple and straightforward, and you're right, it is. However, there are some tools and settings that you can use in order to help you out when it comes to selecting. Either selecting specific items that might be difficult to select, or just helping not select things you don't want to select so you don't accidentally move them, delete them, and so on. So in this video we're just going to be covering those kind of cool tips and tricks when it comes to selection inside of Revit. Now before we jump into Revit, I would like to take a moment to ask you to check out my website, balkanarchitect.com. I'm going to link it up just below this video in the description, and then also up in the cards above. Now there I have all of my Revit courses, over 130 hours of content, and as you would imagine, that's where I can take the extra time to explore all of the little interesting topics inside of Revit, slowly, step by step. So if you're serious about learning Revit, that's definitely a place to go. Also there you can find some of my customized Revit templates. You can find some really high quality Revit families. Actually, we've added some new families recently, and also there is a quite cool plugin which you can check out. Okay, now without any further ado, let's jump straight into Revit. And here we are. So as you can see, I'm using this project. So this is the office building project. This this is just one of my courses where I show you kind of step by step how to design this entire building. So anyways, let me now start off with the selection options. So the selection options, you can find them at two places. The first one is here on the modify tool. So that's kind of the selecting tool. Below that we have select, a little drop panel, and if we click, it's going to open up all of these selection options. Now what you'll notice is you can find all of these options also here. So it's actually below me now, I guess. So you can see all of these same options here. So I'm just going to be looking at this panel here just because of the layout of the video, but keep in mind that you can find it both here and down on the bottom right corner. So anyways, what do we have here? So the first one is select links, and currently is checked on. So this means that if you have anything that's kind of linked up, so if you inserted or linked any Revit files, IFC files, CAD files, topography, and so on, that means that you can now select them. Now if this was checked off, that means that you cannot select it. So why would you use this? Well, it's simple. It's because if for whatever reason you decided that you want to load in a link, and then you have placed that link and you now don't want to accidentally move it. Well, in that case, once you've placed it, you can just uncheck select links, and you will not be selecting that link until you just check this on. So that means that that link is safe, so you don't accidentally move it or do whatever else with it, delete it perhaps. Okay, moving forward, then we have the select underlay elements. So this means that when you're in a situation like, let's go to the ground level. Okay, so here in the ground level, let's say I want to go and give it an underlay. So let's use first level perhaps. So here we go, we have that first level. Now I cannot really select any of these items. See, this is underlaid and I can't select it. However, if I were to check this, now I would be able to select those underlay items. So that is an option. Usually I don't like to use it, so I'm just going to keep it turned off. Moving forward, next we have the select pinned elements. So this is also one of those that can be useful. So for example, if you have your grids, usually I like to pin my grids. So let's pin them in place here. So let's just select a few of them. Now let's select these two and let's pin them. Let's select these here. Make sure they're pinned. Well, now we can select pinned items. So let's say you don't want to select them. You've already pinned them in place, which means you don't want them to move. Perhaps you don't want to select them at all. So you can just uncheck that, and now you can no longer select it. It's like dead graphics. So anyways, you can obviously turn that back on. Next we have the select elements by face. So this means it's now turned off. So this basically means, let me go into the 3D view. To select this roof, for example, I cannot just click on the roof. I have to find one of the lines of that roof in order to select it. Same thing goes for this wall. I cannot just kind of click here. I have to find one of these edges or these lines here to select the wall. Same thing goes with the panels as well. Pretty much every geometry in Revit, even furniture. Now, if I were to select items by face, that would mean that if I just hover over this thing, so over the roof, anywhere when I'm on the roof, it's going to highlight that roof. If I hover anywhere on the wall, it's going to highlight the wall. Same thing goes here with curtain walls, and even I think with the, even with the furniture inside, pretty much anything, if I hover over it, I'm going to be able to select it. Obviously, this can be a little bit annoying, so I like to turn that off just because I prefer making it just a little bit more difficult to select, but then it's you're making less mistakes. So I think overall it's better, and that's why that's the default setting. And finally, we have the drag elements on selection. So what this means is that if I hover over this car, if I click and hold, I can actually move that car. That's because we have that option where we drag elements on selection. Now this can obviously be annoying. Sometimes you're trying to make like let's say I want to make a cross selection of some items here, and then I accidentally hover over the car, and then instead of making a cross selection, I've just moved that car. So that can be really frustrating. So if you don't want to be frustrated by that, you can just come here and uncheck that. So now if you want to move the item, well, you can no longer move it or drag it on selection. You first have to click to select, and then you move it. If you just come and just click and try to move, as you can see, it's making a cross selection. It's not selecting that car. So that's the final option that we have here. I tend to leave it checked on just because that's the default setting, and usually for my tutorials I like to keep things at default settings. Obviously, for kind of everyday workflow, I might just check it off because I do find it a little bit annoying. Okay, so those were the selection options. So what's next? Well, the next thing is filter. So you probably know about this, but makes sense going over it. Let's say you want to select something, but as you can see here, we have a lot of items. So let's say I want to select these here, these lamp posts. So what I can do is I can make like a broad selection like that, and then I just need to remember the category, which was site. And now if I go here to filter, I can just go check none, and then here we have all of the items laid out, and I can just find those site elements. I think it was site, yeah. Hit apply, okay. And now as you can see, we have a lot less items selected, so I can now just hold the shift key and remove things from the selection which I don't need. I can even make like cross selections for removing, and I think we're done. So now I only have those 4 lamp posts or street lights. So there we go, that's the filter option. Okay, now moving forward, we have the option to select all instances. So what does this mean? Well, if I select this lamp post, I can then right click. Just make sure you right click in empty space. So you don't right click on an element like this, you just right click in empty space, and now you have the option to select all instances and then either visible in view or in the entire project. Now it makes more sense to talk about visible in view when you're in a specific view. Basically here in a 3D view, pretty much everything is visible. So for example, let's say I was at, let's go to first level. And then I can select like, a door. Okay, let's select a door, right click, and then go to select all instances, visible in view. So it's just going to select all doors in this particular view. But if I go to the 3D view, you can see it's only selected the doors in that level 1, only 6 doors. Even though I have the same door up on level 2, it's not going to select that because that wasn't visible in that particular view. Okay, then let's go forward and let's talk about selecting curtain walls. So when it comes to these curtain walls, well, not the curtain walls themselves, but actually elements of the curtain walls. So curtain walls, if you don't know, they are a complex system family that has been kind of put together from component families. So you have the mullions, you have the panels, those are separate families that come together as part of the complex curtain wall family. Now, what if you want to select just one of these panels. So you can just select the panel, but if you want to select more panels, you would have to then use the tab key to help out with the selection, hold the control key to add to selection, and obviously it takes forever. Luckily, we do have the option to just select one panel, so let's come in here, let's just select one panel. Then make sure you're in empty space and then you right click, and then here what you'll see is you have an option for just selecting panels. So this obviously isn't going to appear if you select a wall or a piece of furniture or something like that. So it only works with panel families, curtain wall panel families. But now you can select panels along a horizontal grid or along a vertical grid, horizontal grid, or just panels on this particular host or this particular curtain wall. So if I go to along a vertical grid, it's just going to select all of these panels kind of vertically. So you have that option as well. Now the same thing goes for mullions. So if I just hold or hit the tab key a few million times, let's try that again. Okay, let's select just one mullion. Perfect. Okay, now again right click, and then here we have the select mullions, and then again we have the option on the grid, across the grid line, on the vertical grid, on a horizontal grid, inner mullions, border mullions, mullions on host. So here for mullions, obviously we have a few more options. So for example, border mullions is just going to give me all of the border mullions on this particular curtain wall. So editing the curtain walls now becomes a lot easier because of these selection options. And then if you want to get rid of some of these, you can just hold the shift key and remove that from selection. So for example, let's say I don't like these corner mullions, I don't want to change those, I can just uncheck them here, and then for further editing I can continue. And then perhaps while we're still talking about curtain walls, makes sense to show you one more tip, and that's when you have all of these elements that are pinned in place. If you want to unpin them, you don't have to go one by one. You can go here to the modify panel, find the unpin, and then unpin them all, or find pin and then pin them all. So it's kind of easy to pin or unpin multiple selected items here on the modify panel. And there we go. That concludes this video. If you want this project file or any of my other Revit project files, you can find that on my Patreon page, which I'm going to include just below this video in the description, and then also up in the cards above. Thank you for watching, guys. Make sure to check out my website, balkanarchitect.com, for more Revit courses. There I have over 120 hours of content, and I'm adding more each week. Make sure to subscribe for more videos, and also I've added a video over there that might interest you as well.